from the industry, it's always important to hear from each other. Allow me to welcome our speakers for the last panel. We have David, who is coming from TBWA, a global international communications agency. We have also Alessandro, who was with you in the presentation. He's the co-founder of Social Elephant, and also you're also teaching in multiple.
Hello.
Is it on the?
Yeah, it is on.
Okay. So yes, I'm a teacher in different masters.
Multiple master programs,
I have
right?
an online course. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn for
Yes.
details. I'm a consultant in analytics.
So Alessandro and Javier are almost from the same
I'm
field, where they have the
multitask.
academic and corporate
It's
background.
connected. I
Yeah,
like to understand
yes.
from the academics
Yes.
to bring to the
So,
commercial.
so it's always good to have also the academic point of view. And finally, we have Mitch, who is from MNC Saatchi in UAE. Also, it's part of a global communication agency. And it's good also to hear the agency side. We heard from different parties, including corporates, government, community players, and academic. Definitely, it's especially that I have a special feelings towards agencies. I come from also international agencies background, and I know it's not easy. The agencies world, you have to deal with multiple background businesses and tackle all of their needs in different ways. So I believe it will be also very important to hear from the agencies side of the game, because we heard from people who have their own in-house team. We want to see for people who would like to have an agency running the resources or the work for them, what will be the experience that they should be expecting. And we'll be starting with David. David, I want to understand from you, because I know when you have someone in your digital media department in general and social media in specific, when you are in-house for a business, it is easier to manage because you're talking about a specific type of business, clear service or product line. But when you are an agency, we're talking about multiple clients from different sectors. What's the qualifications that usually a team in an agency should have, whether it was from a language point of view or background point of view, and how do you cover this kind of challenge?
You know, that has changed a lot actually in the past few years. I was one of those fortunate people who was around in 2008, 7, 8 when Facebook and Twitter got big for brands. And I was hired as a community manager, actually my very first job in Macau years ago. And what they were looking for was people with advertising, bachelors in advertising or communications, copywriters, which is essentially my background. And we started like that, trying to rephrase copy into, short platforms.
Yeah, to adapt to new.
Twitter was 140 back then.
Yes.
And it was kind of challenging.
Right.
And I think that recruitment in the last few years have mutated organically into people who actually are very, smart and resourceful with their phones out there, rather than qualifications. Because if you look, and that happened to us in South Africa last year, we were actually redesigning a new team for the biggest client there. And I got together all the community managers on the account, which were 5 or 6. And I said to them, show me your Instagram, show me your Facebook, show me your WhatsApp. And all of them, the last time they posted something was 2 months ago, and no stories whatsoever. And so I went back to management of the agency and I said, guys, I'd rather have people who have no degrees, but who are posting 20, 30 stories a day, because those are the people who are capturing the world as it is. So I think that today we're looking for more people that, and at the end of the day, those are the kids we're fighting against as a brand, right? Because if we handle Nissan globally, Hilton, McDonald's globally, and so on, and those kids are beating us, every single day in every single platform. Those are the guys we're fighting against, not the Burger Kings, not the KFCs, but those kids. So, and BuzzFeed has a great case study we cover in Harvard Business School. I can share with you. I still have it, in which they described the recruiting process for BuzzFeed before it went bankrupt, when it was great. And it was about that, finding those kids that are amazing on the street, resourceful, always with the GoPro, always with the phone, documenting stories and telling them in quick, dynamic formats. And that's how, so we had to relearn how to hire people. And we're still learning actually, because we're still global companies that have a lot of processes to and boxes to take in order to hire someone,
Yes.
and those boxes come with qualifications. So we're relearning how to hire people.
And I believe the time is evolving, because initially, when you needed someone at that time to manage your social media, you needed someone who had the background, because he will be the same person who's usually defining the strategy, creating the content, and doing everything.
Yeah.
You didn't have this big kind of social media team
Yeah.
like what we have now. But now, when you have someone senior who's doing the kind of the strategy and content planning, then you prefer someone who's not necessarily capable as a strategy, but more as execution and dedicating time and type of content.
Yeah, that also is changing, I think. I think that we live our lives chasing our tails, especially what we do, because we bundle and bundle and bundle and bundle. And we're talking about how, a few years ago, Unilever and Procter & Gamble said, now we're going to find specific shops for a specific task. And all the big agencies like us, boom, unbundle and created shops. And then a couple of years ago, Procter & Gamble and Unilever said again, you know what, that's too expensive, we need integrated solution.
Yeah.
So all of us, boom, bundle again. And I
Yeah.
think that when it comes to talent, it's the same thing. I think that for big agencies, sometimes we need 5 people to change a light bulb. And I'm not a big fan of those heavy structures.
Yeah.
I don't believe in one strategist, one content creator,
Yeah.
one editor, one. I like people who can pretty much do everything.
Yes,
It
multitasking.
keeps things lean.
Mm.
And I think when you have great technology like social elephants and all those tools, that you don't really need people to reinterpret results. If you have a good content strategist, good content creator, that person can actually do all the work, And I think reporting is not rocket science anymore.
Yeah.
When it comes to attribution, it is a bit. When it comes to social reporting, you have tools.
Yeah, you talk about the basic insights that you have
Yeah.
by default in the platforms.
So I'm trying to personally recommend or suggest to the company to be leaner when it comes to strategies and reporters and all this stuff, because for us to have 2-3 people to reinterpret insights from tools that pretty much you print that graphic or you put it in a keynote is self-explanatory, that to me is just a waste of money.
So we're here to discuss different point of views. Not necessarily because you're also from an agency, you agree. So I want to hear your point of view.
No, I think following on from that.
And you can disagree, no problem.
I mean,
I'm just kidding.
it's always a
Yeah.
joke with my teams, because they're always like, it's the aspirational part of being, I want to be in your position. And then when we have a discussion, I get, but I have to do community management. And that doesn't change, because the roles have now changed. You don't just do community management. You don't just do the creative or copywriting. You have to be skilled in terms of what you can create. The teams, we always laugh because I hire them to create content and manage the communities, work with the clients and
Yeah.
build a relationship. And then they're like, can I quickly jump on Photoshop just to sort out, because the creative teams are working on that. And again, it's having that skill set that they can run. So we, within Dubai, and I've been there for 6 years, we started doing live content at events.
Yeah.
So we used to do coverage at all the big concerts and shows. And that initially was, 6 years ago. There wasn't Instagram stories, there wasn't Instagram live. It was, I can only put up a post, there wasn't even video. You could just put up a static image, and how do you capture that in time? And then the tools start rolling out, and the team needs to adapt to that.
Yeah.
And that, to build the right team, again, it's finding the right people that are almost entrepreneurs,
Yes.
looking after a brand when they're working and creating content as if it's their own. Their passion needs to come through. If you don't have that passion, they're not going to create the content that you need. They're not going to inspire if you're working with a creative team. So some agency setups, there's a full creative team just for social. Other times it's an integrated team that you pull across the accounts. If they can't inspire their creative teams to come up with concepts in the first scenario, you're going to end up getting that sort of static, content that comes out with no real insight to back it. Insights is also important, and that's something to try and work with the teams to understand, is not just look at your content in a piece of content in one piece. Try and understand a series of content that follows the same formula. You look at a quick service restaurant, for instance. how do we format our content? Do we put offers up front? Do we put it in the middle? Do we put it at the end? What is that metric? How are we measuring that? Are we benchmarking against that? So look at the same format. How are we pulling the data to see, are people dropping off in the beginning and our messages in the beginning? Great, then it means they've got what we say. Or are they following through? Is there enough drama and excitement that we can bring through? So, you know, it's an agile team which then needs to feed into how we can actually enrich what they're doing to create that.
Again, I think the driver of the necessity of multitasking personnel in your team is the speed of actions these days. Before you had all the time to have someone planning, someone designing, someone posting, and now with the competition and the rapid speed of content online, you need someone who can manage on the spot everything.
Yeah.
And I believe with what Dr. Spencer mentioned about the new tools, now you can have everything not even as an application, even online. You can cut videos, you can add things to videos, you can do a lot, change format of a video, images, a lot of audio, whatever, using online free tools even sometimes. So I think that's the driver.
If I can.
I want
something,
you just
yeah,
please to.
Well, because I also work.
You
with
can
other-
disagree with the agencies,
Yeah.
no problem.
Of course, I work with agencies.
I know, yes, they're your
I
clients.
think the most important thing, in my opinion, is like it's not the same for the small business. No, of course they gonna have a staff of 10 people specialized. So you are the social media manager. So definitely you must be skillful and be ready to do everything. So maybe you can use some apps that make you, if you're not into analyzing data, maybe you learn using not necessarily social elephants, but any good tool that gives you a report straight away, not a waste of time. If you're in a big company, of course now there are more profiles, more into analytics. Before, like it's because of my success, because nobody was into analytics and social media maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yes.
So when you have nowadays there are a lot of profiles like
Yes.
that, but please put the teams together. So maybe organize some brainstorming in your companies. It looks like it's a waste of time because people are always flooded because of the schedule, you know, you're
Yeah.
managing teams and stuff. But please, maybe once per week, do some sessions so the guy doing the artwork can understand the meaning of engagement, can look in the platform and say, hey, look, this picture of yesterday made a good result in the
Yeah,
platform.
yeah.
So it's very important. Yeah.
It's a very, I think, very valid point what Alessandro has mentioned. Not necessarily if I don't work in a specific. I think this is the beauty of the agencies world, because usually agencies, especially 360 agencies, they all work on common projects for common clients. So usually people who are working on activation and on-site events work together with people who work on creative, work together with people who are working online, and this results a kind of a knowledge exchange. That's why I think one of the pros of working in an agency, you get to understand other divisions in communication world. But to go back to our panel subject, which is insights and analytics, and I want to keep the mic with you, Alessandro. We know, I'm sure most of the audience, they know that there is plenty of tools out there. You name it, social media listening tools, analyzing tools, management tools with statistics, with different labels that you can add.
Yes.
Many of them are free, many of them are paid with different payment modules. Some of them are expensive, some of them are affordable, some of them are based on the user number and type. How you help our audience here to understand the difference between all of these types, and most important is what is the difference between an advanced listening tool from an algorithm point of view and language ability to understand point of view versus a general tool that maybe is able to analyze standard type of data. What makes Social Elephant, or not necessarily Social Elephant, any other tool win over other tools?
Well, I think it's really a jungle. It's a big mess, the choice. Actually, there is a nice tool if you want to check, social media tool comparison. I can maybe tweet later the link.
Yeah, please.
And it's like some guy from another company, like competitor of Social Elephant, built up this huge dashboard. and you can select, I run 10 social profile, I analyze 20 competitors, and I need to do this, so you fill up all the
Also,
checklist.
it's a dynamic kind
Yeah,
of.
it's a dynamic,
okay.
and then it ranks in a list of the price, no? Which is not like...
Do you feel it's neutral or it's more?
well, actually, I asked that to check if they are
You
transparent to
tested?
add my data of social elephants into this platform. So it's a transparency tool. They just compare and they try to be the best in the rank. Of course, since they made the table, they adjusted some parameters so they more or less are
Yes.
always on top,
Yes.
or maybe there are some logo of their company anywhere. But I mean, fair enough. So this tool just represents something that I also believe. It really depends on your needs. So if I want to assess with a potential customer of social elephants, I will sit down with him and say, look, what are your needs? How many social profiles? Do you need to publish, or do you need just to analyze your data? Do you need a competitor analysis? Do you need to do some social listening, which means like listening to what the conversation, public conversation? So with this list, maybe if you had like 500 possible tools, then it narrows back to maybe I don't know, 50. And then you ask about the budget. Of course, there are some amazing tools like Sprinkler and stuff, but they're super expensive.
Yeah.
So maybe some huge agency can afford that budget, or maybe even not. And so maybe you have also to make the count with your pocket.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, I really recommend to instruct yourself, maybe ask trials, don't be shy, try
Yeah.
your tools, because every tool is a different language. You have to be familiar with the design of the platform, the type of record they provide. So the mission of Social Elephants, to try to be totally unbiased, but really was to try to make something more or less easygoing, that you feel like it's a game, it's
Yes.
not too patchy, not too many tables.
Not too technical.
But for the user that really wants to like playing with it a little bit, you have option to customize your report. So it's not like everything shining and beautiful, like for example, Social Bakers, that is like top
Yes.
in the sense like records that are looking very well. But if you want to change something, doesn't allow you that flexibility. So really, it's up to the social media manager to find the sweet spot, no? And try many, try at least 10 to make your mind. Yeah.
So David, going back to you, TVWA as an agency, do they do it on a project basis? So if a client requests to analyze or to have an advanced listening tool, you acquire a specific license for him, or you deal with one company that offers an agency solution and you do it for all of your clients? Or you don't do it at all and you prepare your own solution?
We're trying to change that as well, because if we were hiring tools, then they would need guys like me, right? So I think that where agencies are moving towards to, and I think small and medium business could too as well, is to start, building their own data warehousing platforms. Not only warehousing, but also reporting. I think that different from years ago, now when you go to Azure Machine Learning, or when you go to aggregators like Funnel.io or Supermetrics or stuff like that, that costs pretty much nothing. And if you know a bit of Google Data Studio, which is free, or Tableau, which has also an online free version, you can build your own solution. And of course, hiring a platform that does it for you is great when you're, I think when the metrics are what they call vanity metrics, I think those tools are great for that. But when you really need to or want to step into business intelligence, which is, we're moving away from reporting to business intelligence and predictive analytics. There is no tool in the world that really caters to what we need, because it's a multi-layer problem, right? Every client is a multi-layer problem. If we look into McDonald's, or if we look into Nissan, we don't sell cars online. But if you look into Hilton does have bookings online. If you look into the Louvre Museum in Abu Dhabi, they sell tickets online. But if you look into, Audi, which we also have in Europe, they don't sell cars online. So everything is such a different complex equation that when guys like me stepped in, is to say, okay, what are the business challenges here? So for example, we have a client in the US, which is, in Africa, which is like Ooredoo, is a telco, big telco. It's called MTN. And one of the biggest problems is that their competitors, Vodacom, was essentially eating them up on the prepaid space for the first time in history. So I asked the client, why do you think Vodacom for the first time ever is actually, billing you? And they're like, we don't know what they're doing. So I said, do you know what they're actually advertising or selling? And they're like, we have no idea. You are the agency, you tell me. So what we did, we took a couple of interns and we created a methodology in which, and a taxonomy model, and that's what everyone can do, go on Excel or Google Sheets and create classification models on data. And then we started collecting everything that the competitors are doing. So the technique was very simple. Go on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to the CRM, buy SIM cards, and every SMS you get, every promotion they put on Twitter, label it. Put it on a Google Sheet and label it. And we set some anomaly detection algorithms, essentially a formula that said that if they are selling 2 gigs of data for less than $10, that's an anomaly in the industry, send us an alert and send the client an alert in real time. So, along that we did a lot of parameters, and that dashboard in 13 days essentially helped the client regain the leadership on prepaid, So that there's no tool in the world that gives me that. That's when you have to bring strategic mathematical thinking and I think digital knowledge as well to pretty much design your own solution. And I think that's why data guys like David was showing earlier, data guys and data scientists and data visualization guys are so wanted today, because those tools are short for business intelligence. They're good for reporting, they're short for business intelligence.
I would add that this type of monitoring requires money, because you have a staff of people checking manually the post of
Yes, definitely.
and
So-
maybe,
So maybe to reframe it in what I see, how I see what David described. So I believe what social media listening tools or analyzing tools are offering is something quick and cost efficient, if it is like affordable or free, to get quick hands-on reports for basic data like things that you can monitor easily online.
Not
But-
all of them though, because if you look into NetBase, which is
Yes.
a monster, and that costs $40,000 a year,
Yeah.
that thing gives you, even machine learning models on what's going to be trending tomorrow, Sprinkler as well, and so on.
Yes.
So again,
But it
there's-
doesn't offer what you're talking about.
Not
Because what
necessarily
you're talking
when it
about
comes
is
to
more.
business, yeah.
Yes, this is exactly what I was going to say. So you need to differentiate between something generic that you need as a generic data about a specific
Advertising and
brand.
business. I'll
Yes.
do it as-
And then you have the business analyst, and you're doing a deep analysis of a business competitor.
Mhm.
Every action they're doing, not necessarily only as a marketing, but on all levels.
Totally.
So this is a way advanced, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a very good approach, and I believe it's essential for every business. And I agree, it is something that requires the right resources and the right way to do it. Otherwise, it's a.
But I would like to clarify as well, because I think people are afraid of data in a bit.
Yes,
So
it is.
data is either big advanced platforms that I don't have money for, or genius people that went to MIT and they're only 10 in the world, right? And I don't really think it's like that. I think that data today should just answer the basic questions that we've always had in businesses. What's my competitor doing? What are my clients saying about me? How do I sell more? Is social media giving me any return at the end of the funnel? Whatever it is, right? And once you have that formulation of the problem, then you list your data sources. What do I have? Social channel, CRM. If it's an omni-channel animal, like they were showing earlier, fine. You list that. Okay, what am I going to measure? What's quantitative? What's qualitative? And then you balance it in an equation. You can bring in a statistician, mathematician, and then data collection is not as hard as it seems. We have interns doing that a couple of times a day. It takes them 10 minutes. And then the other part of the process is with tools. There's a lot of scrapers built today. There is one called Supermetrics that we use a lot for social media scrapping. And the other one is, I forgot, I'll tell you in a bit, that actually monitors all the news in the world, forums, websites, blogs, and so on. And whatever is being said, you can target it by geolocation, keywords, brands, and so on. When you aggregate all that stuff, and you get all your data, you can build predictive models. And you don't need to know R or Python. You go on bigml.com, input your data sets. I was showing the guys earlier. You convert your features into data sets and build your models. It gives you the predictions, the decision tree in 3 clicks. You don't have to use that in 15 minutes like a couple of weeks ago. So it really is not rocket science, and it really doesn't cost.
It is not, but still, I think in the region here, if you agree with me, people do not really, especially maybe on a big corporate level, they do, because they have a higher management and a higher reporting that they have to do. But on a smaller scale, companies, they don't really give data its right way. No one collects data in the beginning, because without data you're unable to do all of what you mentioned.
It
So-
depends on the market.
Yes.
Also. Like go to Spain and go to UK or Dubai. You know,
Yes.
It looks like they are really on top. I mean, I've been collaborating with some brands that I named it there, and they are not working the same way. They're not doing that business analysis.
No, what he mentioned is not definitely
The standard, no? Like,
the standard in the region. It is something very nice. I would like to see this more happening in the region. I know that data is not treated the right way it should be, although it's the base of all of your decisions. Your marketing decisions, your business decisions should be based on data. Unfortunately, the current situation is based more on.
Yeah, I would like to wrap that up with a thought. I think our country, TVW is a global company, right? Everywhere in the world.
Yes.
The country with the most advanced data platform today is South Africa. It's not even Dubai or the
Yeah.
US. And we built it in South Africa with no money, no resources, just one guy who went there was myself last year and listed a bunch of business problems and said, okay, what are our sources? What are our problems? What if we do this and that? Let's get a couple of interns, zero cost. And then we went on Tableau, zero cost. We paid a programmer $1,000, which is, and then the client ended up paying a lot of money for that 3 months later. So I think, and the platform I wanted to mention before is called webhost.io. It's an aggregator that costs $100 a month and it swipes the internet for whatever content you want and puts it in whatever dashboard you want as well.
Mm.
So.
I think it's the whole thing is just scalability is what you're saying is what are you trying to achieve when you're starting out. It's those basic metrics that are going to help you get the recognition and start that conversation. And as you said, in the region it's not, there's a couple of clients that we've worked with and you guys obviously are not working with as well that are taking the next step, but there's a lot of understanding that needs to come into the base metrics and how that's affected. There is that algorithm, how does algorithm affect me? If you don't understand what data we were working with and how we optimize that data in the basis point, you're not going to be able to move it up. And then when you're looking at tools, it's how do you want to scale that?
Yeah.
And that's why, the different tools of just engagement, how does that engagement even link through to your CRM system?
Yes.
Which we know a lot of the times there isn't any data coming from CRM.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes.
But there are ways to do that, so setting up teams, managing, looking at clients that have to respond in real time for banking, for instance. I've worked with a bank in Dubai that we set up just a basic sort of Hootsuite account. They didn't have enough money initially to invest in a way that they could respond. We couldn't respond in a space of banking details. We can't give that information out. They're not going to give us access. How do we set up a structure working with their contact center, upskilling their team to become multi-skilled, not just on the phone, not just on email, but then they can start responding through the platform. So again, you've got to look at what your problem is, where you're looking, and then you start optimizing. Once you understand that data, is when we start getting deeper into it.
I think building on that, a couple of things as well that are actionable, because I would love to live today and have you guys with a couple of things on your notebooks that you can try tomorrow, right? So the most difficult thing to gather for us, forget about processing data and the output and technology, is actually collecting the data, right? Or having first-party data. It's expensive, there's a lot of regulations, it's not on there. So they bring a guy like me to an agency like ours, and they say, okay, do data stuff. Then I meet the clients for a month, and they promise me, or they kind of committed to give me access to their data lakes, which never happened. 2 years later, I've never.
Yes.
Because it's not.
That's
it's a liability.
That's exactly what's happening.
It's a liability for them, right? So I was like, okay, so if we don't have any data, how can I be a data guy? So I went back to digital, back to basics, right? I told our digital team in South Africa, I need you guys to do 5 polls every single day on social channels. Instagram stories, people like answering those. Twitter polls and Facebook polls on stories and timeline. 5 questions, nice copy, ask if they like old music or new music, if they like a great camera or great storage on the phone, whatever, right? And then we took all those answers and we started grouping them. You know, if you think about Wigo, if you think about any client, you can ask questions and then start collecting. After 7 months, we were sitting on over 1 million answers. 1 million. You know, if you go to McKinsey or Deloitte to buy a data set that big, you got to get your checkbook ready. That's one thing, right? So one of our managers was actually questioning that. He said, yeah, but there was social media, those answers are not reliable. I was like, huh, okay, let me try something different. So what company gives you access to good insights? Global Web Index. It's a little expensive, we actually bought it. But before that, we hired a partner that in Dubai, what they do is they go to parties, restaurants, marathons, whatever it is, a bunch of people with fancy cameras, and they start taking pictures of people. When people come and ask them, hey, I want a picture, they give them a business card, go to this website, and they answer 5 questions. And those 5 questions, guess what? It's perception and behavioral data.
Yeah.
So if you want your pro picture, you answer, okay, so when you run, how do you hydrate yourself? Gatorade, water, or other product, and so on. Those insights, guess what? Group them, patterns, sell them as first party data. And they just sign a big deal with PepsiCo for $500,000 for a couple thousand. Yeah. So I think we need to go step back a bit and also start being creative in the way we collect first party data. Because I hear a lot from people that if we don't have great tools, if we don't have great databases, if we don't have CRM, then I cannot do anything. I'm tied, both hands. Guess what? If we don't do anything to actually fight those challenges, you'll be fired as a data guy, in a year because you're too expensive, and then you're not really giving any value. So creativity took another shape today in the way of collecting data.
There's also another extreme, the case where you have too many data, whatever. We plug in all the data stream and we have many data, but you need really somebody in the strategies that knows what are the questions that you want to answer, because it can be a little bit confusing. And as I said, you have tools that can be even an Excel sheet, to analyze basic data and doing A/B tests and something like that. So, you are in the middle between too short data access, too many data.
And to come back to what Mitch had mentioned, and I believe from experience, Antoine maybe can remember, I worked with Antoine in one of the big international retail companies where we're not talking about agency, we're talking about in-house, like department to department. Sales were not willing to share data for marketing to build their strategy based on it, you remember? CRM were not also willing so you have 2 scenarios which makes the life of a marketer really difficult. Number one, people who have CRM but they have rubbish data, useless, and people who have data but they don't want to share it with you, whether it was an agency or
and
even
another factor, and now Facebook making things difficult. For example, to connect now for privacy and stuff, you cannot really easily access the name and surname of a user and you connect to your CRM as before.
Yeah.
That's, at least if you're following the guidelines of Facebook. So it's difficult business nowadays. Yeah.
But the good point is the advice that David has shared with us today. Even if you have all of these obstacles and challenges, there is always ways to play around it. It may be difficult, depends also on the brand and your accessibility to the audience of this brand. It will be different from a bank to another kind of business, but definitely there is always ways to tackle these challenges. Coming back to Mitchell, how much do you agree with what you have to fight?
No, like I say, I 100% support that because I think it's about scalability. I've worked with startups. I've been in a startup agency. How do we start pulling through? We can't afford big tools. We can't afford half the things that we need when we're looking at analytics, looking at the client, and that's something I really love doing is working with the clients to understand how we can educate them, how can we help them, and build that out and then scale up in an easiest way for them that they can, get around that. Because there is, as you start going higher and higher into data, it starts costing more. It's more time, it's investment, it's resources. With the right resources, obviously, people that can number crunch and pull through and start pulling out the trends. But it's that scalability, and I think if you've got to understand that first point of what am I trying to achieve? What am I looking for? What is that thing that I'm trying to find out from my audience? And that creative data capturing is the best way to do it. If you've got no data, play around with that. You have an audience. Doesn't matter if the audience is 100,000, 200,000, 100 people. They could give you that insight, you know, and make sure that runs through. Because often we do a lot of research, and we sit in these panels and you talk, and you know, you're trying to understand from a select group of people when you've got an audience sitting on the other side who will happily give that information to you. In to understand that, and you can guide that question. You know, we do a lot of content for a quick service restaurant,
Yeah.
and our audience responds. It's crazy. Organically, we break the algorithm sometimes, just because we put out something and we get them. They're passionate about it, and they go out and they want to respond. We did one during the cricket period that just happened, the IPL. We put out a post, and it was just who's going to win, A, B, or C, one of the three, and the engagement that came out of it, and people were like, we want to win, it wasn't competition. This is a community that's actively engaging, so how do we activate that creatively to understand more is where you can start tapping into. Yes, the tools that help pull that information together, the listening gives you those peaks, gives you the alerts, allows you to be more tactical, especially from a creative agency side. Because the biggest thing is, how do I jump on a trend?
Yeah.
It's literally an everyday question that I have is, what is the trending topic? What's coming up? What's next? How do we jump on it? Where do we do it? Is it relevant? You know, and using the right tools, understanding the tools, understanding the data. You've also got to look back at your brand. Don't jump on every trend. Just because that's peaking, is it relevant? You might fall into the trend, but it's not going to move the needle on what your business is. You know, there are times where we do get caught in that. It's because I can build up and drum some extra engagement, visibility, and all of that, but when it's starting on a trending topic, unless it's relevant and the content you're putting with it is working, it's just going to get lost in the motion of it.
Thank you, Mitch. What David mentioned made me think, and I want to think loud. So there's a very nice part you mentioned, like I'm the guy of data. So if I don't offer data, find a solution, they will fire me. Especially they need to afford you. So for someone who doesn't have you, right? What you mentioned, and now looking at tools like Social Elephant or all other tools that doesn't cover in specific what you mentioned because it's more customized. And the question maybe between you and Alessandro, what's the possibility of having a tool that can customize your type of data that you're looking for, and whatever David was mentioning as a kind of a human manual decisions to be a kind of a wizard or customized? Because what we have now in Social Elephant or any other tools, it's like a kind of a predefined, whatever customization you have is within the same closed circle. It's a bit limited if you compare it to what he was mentioning about a business kind of data analysis.
I think the one possible answer is like having a tool with an API connection, for example. So if you're an advanced user and you want to connect social data with the business intelligence data, maybe a good idea if you're using a tool for managing community management, doing report stuff, until you have a chance to connect these reports with some other platform that you might use. This is a good answer. Other option, even Social Elephants, I think the target is not like the super advanced brand doing the quite sort of complex type of analysis. Maybe it's more the standard brand doing some routinely reports, and this makes you save a lot of time and a lot of processes, as it was mentioned before. It's also having the same tool where all the people, the staff log in and can, one part of the team schedule the post and then do the content thing, then the customer support can escalate issue to other part of the team, and then the reports guy also do the report guys. So the data scientist in this case himself, maybe he could just extract data with an export, you can see Excel tables or with an API, and then do some extra processing of the data. Yeah.
How do you see this scenario?
Well, if I can speak honestly.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
It's only thinking loud. Maybe maybe it's bull.
it's an unexpected question because it's changing as well. I don't think it's a matter of tools. I think and all conversations around what tool for this, what tool for that, is what has made digital such a slow, painful part of advertising as it is, because we're so dependent on tools and that is exclusive or excludes people, right?
Yes.
If I don't have money, if I don't have tools, I cannot do this or that. If I could go before the tools, I think what we need to start doing is luring people that are going to finance an economic school, people who are playing with econometrics models and all that stuff to come into advertising, which we are. And then those guys can come in and build whatever. Then the tool, again, there are machine learning tools that are free, multiple linear regression, classification, anomaly, you name it, right? I'm sure Microsoft has solutions that are beautiful as well, BigML. So the tool is really the least of my concerns when it comes to this stuff. To me, the big concern is that you don't have guys that think in correlation at all. Like everyone is so linear. Everyone is like one dimension, A, B, and C, and if A doesn't work, then I deploy B, and so on. Everyone, especially advertising, is so linear because that's the industry. So I think the industry needs to take a beating right now. Not only advertising, I think commerce in general, and we need to relearn to do it. And that's kind of the overall philosophical answer. I think when it comes to tools, there are a large amount of them. The cool thing that's happening now is that everything now is open API, so you can lay your tools and that's beautiful. That we never had that chance. I remember what was this tool that these guys bought. It was a big tool back in 2008 and 9. Salesforce bought it. It's not.
Media.
No. It's a social analytics tool. Radiant 6.
They both.
We had
Radiant 6.
we had that in Macan, and it was a super expensive tool. And I remember it was the least flexible thing in the world. You could, if you touch something wrong, the thing would charge $1 million. It was awful,
Yeah, because it was the mix of two different platforms, so they were trying to put the cables together.
Now the fact that you can copy a key, an API key from BigML and connect it to Google Sheets and run a predictive model to see what's going to work tomorrow on display based on historic CTR, that to me is beautiful and fascinating. And you don't really need to be a data scientist or a rocket scientist. It's something very logical, I do a regression on clicks and I correlate it with the call to actions that I put in different banners, and then the colors that I had and the sizes, and you give it a weight. I mean, there is a correlation that shows what we were seeing before, that is kind of like this. Try it out and then replicate it, and then the model will learn, and then you'll be able to do machine learning, just like that. So
I want to say that maybe I'm not lucky in my town in Spain and stuff. I mean, I don't find in the social media department so many people talking this language.
Yes, actually, in my 15 years plus experience also, I didn't see.
So honestly,
I don't think
most
I
of
want to find the same also.
also maybe the feedback from the audience, right? So
if we're speaking like Chinese here,
Yes, I wanted to ask who feels scared about what he's talking about.
Because if I go to the social media manager when we do events or demo, and if you talk about demo regression and stuff, maybe people get lost. So maybe the idea of using a platform like Social Elephants or Sprout Social stuff, maybe it's an intermediate level for people that never, they don't even know how to calculate engagement. They don't know the formula, and they want to have something quick to display if the post is red light or green light, something like that.
Yes.
And this is a way to familiarize, to play with the KPIs. Once the KPIs are like your own language, then you, I think, you definitely get rid of any tools and you work with the connection and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think exactly to conclude, for some people what they call rocket science, it's many people, I think they want the easy way, and this is exactly the differentiator between you putting solutions and finding a way to get it, even if there is a lot of challenges and obstacles, versus you counting on the easy way, either I get it or I don't get it. So I'm sure this is a subject that we can discuss until tomorrow.
Yeah, and also just
Anyone would like to add anything before we open the
Oh yes, it was to complete the fact like even depends on the budgets. Like for example, you can have a tool like Social Elephant starting for 30 euros per month. So it's a different budget than setting up the whole process or having a team, even the intern to hire the intern to do the stuff. So we're talking maybe of different levels. And if you have to answer a basic question, and most of you maybe you have like, what's the best day of the week where I should publish? What's the best time to publish? How many posts should I publish? To have all these simple questions and you have just click a button and get these results. Then you can even use tools like Social Elephants. When you go to business intelligence and stuff, then you first of all you have to have a good head of the department and then good people.
Definitely. I think what we're talking about here is a way of, it's a culture that we need to build in this is what you were saying about the layers and the way agencies and corporate in general work. I think the culture of data is completely something that you need to build and raise within your organization to reach to the level that you're talking about. Meanwhile, lazy people can use similar tools. Anyone would like to add anything before we open door for questions?
Well,
Questions?
if you want sources to read about all this stuff, just message us on.
Yeah, please. All of our speakers, for sure, they are very open and
Easy to reach.
easy to reach. If you have something that is still in your mind and you want to follow up later, they are. I'm freely speaking on their behalf, but I know that they are very collaborative and willing to support you. Any questions about data? Please, the mic for the gentleman.
Hello, this is Kami Sambusade. I'm a PhD researcher in social media and digital media in the UK, and a specialist in social media data collection and analyst as well. It's
Very
not-
interesting subject for you.
Yeah, indeed. By the way, I'm local support for Social Elephant, so if you need any help here in Oman, I can help you out with this. It's not a question, but you were kind of like discussing the things from sort of like a Western centric point of view. But if you come and discuss it here in Oman, last week I had a couple of meetings with like banking industry and with power companies in Oman, and doing some analysis using Social Elephants tool. They said, what can we do with this? See, the problem is they are not aware of the importance of data or social media in order to make a decision after the analysis. So I think in Oman, the first thing we have to think about is like make people aware about the importance of social media data.
Data in general, I would say.
Like in general, but if we, talking about social media, we have got like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like a bunch of data every day. My PhD is all about how Omani people used Twitter during the unemployment crisis happened in Oman, and I think everybody knows about this. So it went viral since 2017. I collected 500,000 tweets. Only this is like 1% what Twitter allows us to collect, like for free.
Yeah.
I can get a lot of stuff like the geographic location. I can get the male, female. I can get what kind of content discussion and stuff they use during the hashtags, and the language they use as well, the dialogue they use. It all it helps in order to understand the digital community or the digital society we have got here in social media.
So it was a remark, not a question.
Not a question, but
Thank you very
I'm
much
trying to cultivate this culture here in Oman by
Thank you very
giving
much for-
presentations.
I would
for
love to
free.
say something regarding that. The very first 3 months when I joined the agencies at the end of 17 and beginning of 18, I built a lot of demos with dummy data to show this and 19 other capabilities because I brought 20 business intelligence correlation dashboards. And I presented it to 3 or 4 of our main clients. You know how many of them bought them? None. So I went back to the office heartbroken, to talk to my CEO in South Africa and said, you know, they have interest in it, but they feel there is duplication because the media agency is already bringing dashboards somehow. They feel like they already have it in-house because the business team in-house at the telco company already do, whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
So I said to the guy, and that's when we all have to become entrepreneurs, even at big agencies, because that was a big lesson for us as well. And I said to him, if you give me a couple $1,000 to pay a guy to build real dashboards on Tableau for this thing, I promise you that in 3 months I will sell you this thing at 20 times that cost. I said to him, go for it. We built it. 3 months later, we sold it to the client. They pay monthly, whatever would, you know, like whatever would net-based cost 3 times even more. And they still, a year and a half later on, are still paying for it. So my message to that, you know, clients don't know what they don't know, right? That's as simple as that. And you can sell them by selling them or by teaching them. Selling them doesn't sell digital data. That's just historically like that. Because they don't understand it and they don't buy what they don't understand. But if you teach them with evidence, invest in a bit, they'll buy later on. So
And following up with this point, also based on social elephant experience from a sales perspective, because in a startup you are like everything, you know. And so the thing that makes you make a choice to buy the product is not about even teaching at the beginning, oh, blah, blah, engagement, you don't need, blah, blah. When you show that the main competitors is having better share of voice, then the CEO comes down, what's there? I don't understand this, but like make this number bigger, do something. And so that's the way to set it. So this is a very, very strong trigger. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Just a question. After hearing,
Hi, thank you very much, Antoine. You're the man. After hearing everything you said with regarding data, I went into thinking to my head, okay, a person is clever, people are stupid, data gets you everything what people does, too much data, too complicated. End of the day, what's better? Instinct or data? For example, everything he said with his collection of all the Twitter stuff, I kind of knew through instinct. I'm just saying, that's how it was. So what's better? Instinct or data? Or do you use your instincts in your data when it's too complicated?
I think instincts, I mean, you need instinct to even just do anything, but I think instinctive decisions are not informed decisions. I think data is the compass of decisions today, and it's going to get better and better. So, of course, in life, you need to be instinctive to do certain things, but I think in business as it is, and communications and everything we do, there is enough crumbs, trails to actually collect and group and analyze to be able to make data-driven decisions. And it's now accessible to all of us, not just to the people with money like in the past. So data all the way, I'm the data guy, of course I have to say that.
Instinct and data are not very good friends, and yeah, I agree with him. This is what I have to do.
And it goes deeper, just like I said, you've got data, it's understanding what that data could be. Because you can look at numbers, you can get numbers, and you can pull them together, and you can pull words, if you're doing listening searches, and understand the words. But until you start actually trying to understand, especially with Arabic, the sentiment behind that. You know, that's been a biggest learning point for me behind working in the region, is the different dialects, the way that these things are said, the slang, the colloquial, the Arabic topics, how do we handle that? And obviously tools are never going to be able to pick up on all of that detail. It's going to need somebody that can actually look over it and go, right, I understand the community, I understand where this is coming from and the sentiment, and that's where it comes through. So data, yes, you can use it, and there's a huge element of the two working hand in hand, but it's how you interpret it. Because again, everything's up to interpretation. We create content, and I think, this is what you create content. Sometimes we get caught up in, oh, I like this. Yeah, it's not what I like. You might like it when you're creating it because you're passionate about it. When you're putting it out to a whole bunch of people with perspective and a different point of view in what they're looking at. And that, when you start getting the feedback, is when you start getting, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea. But that feedback, again, going back, analyzing that feedback, seeing what the people are saying, gives you that insight. So, you're constantly learning in every step that you do.
Yeah, maybe it's like the over expectation about like data will solve you. I think it's like if you're like not very data focused and just ask you the most simple question that you want to discover. Make sure maybe contact a consultant. Can I answer this question with data? And just something simple, start from there. Like some example that I showed you before was like not very complicated, and then you learn, and then you go next step.
Yeah, I think it's always useful to start
Yeah.
step by step. It's good to
For
explore,
people,
play with the basic kind of data, and then you go step by step. Otherwise, some people will run early. Question?
Yes.
Mike, please. We have it.
Hello. Nader Rawahi from the venue itself. We have a lot of data here. I mean, we collect data all the time. But at what point do you know that the data is not valid or the data that you have needs to be refreshed? I mean, we always gather business cards, people move, and that at some point that data is no longer valid. Is it through, I don't mean to go off topic, but we use MailChimp as a way to send direct mailers, and we get a lot of hard bounces. So how do you know that no longer I should not use this data, I should stop now? And when we use external or third-party suppliers who give us their data, how do we validate that data or the number that they give us is accurate?
Well, I think we should like maybe go something deeper. Which type of data? Because it can be really, like we're talking about data.
You talk about MailChimp, for example, is email addresses.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So for me personally, if I receive hard bounce, I will simply remove it from the list. If it is a soft bounce, maybe I will give it a couple of other tries. But if it is a hard bounce, definitely I will remove it from the list. So you have to data is about maintenance.
Maybe do lists and try to do some A/B testing to see if you can wake up those dead people in your newsletter, maybe with some different type of content. Maybe just store because they receive too many spam mails. If they don't react, delete and clean fresh. Yeah.
That's exactly what I meant when I said we have two scenarios. Either people who do not have data, or people who have data CRM but rubbish data, and people who have data but they don't want to share. The people who have rubbish data are the people who collect the data, but they don't maintain it, they don't do anything with it. So after 5 years, how do you evaluate your data? If it is not maintained, and utilized in a regular way, after like 5 years, this is no longer valid.
So every 5 years you have to refresh.
Well,
I believe more.
my 2 cents on that. First of all, don't buy third-party data,
Yeah,
especially if it comes to emails, because those people didn't subscribe. They're not interested in you. You're buying ears and eyes, and that's never good. I mean, the residual value on that is always too big. The second one, I think that serious businesses, and nothing against MailChimp, but I think MailChimp is cute for if you have a cupcake store, like the corner. I think that serious businesses, again, nothing against them. I actually use it still, but you should really get into a HubSpot or a Salesforce or something kind of bigger for CRM, because email marketing, I think, is a little short for a business like this, and that will give you deeper understanding of what's going on. And I think that the third point there is that don't worry so much about the current performance on that. What I would really focus on right now is actually collecting more names and more, not demographic data. I think demographic data is not enough anymore, because it puts everyone in the same bucket, like names and emails and where do you live and if you're men or women, it doesn't really tell you much. I think that good data collection techniques come with, if people come here and you give them something outside of the show and say, fill up this, name, email, do you like opera, rock music, or whatever, and then you get a bit of behavior. When you start collecting that, having 10 of those is more valuable than having 500 of the other ones, so don't worry so much about what you have now. I think that the question is, how do you collect the next step of